Welcome to another edition of Edtech Monday, a platform created by the Mastercard Foundation in collaboration with MEST to help us think through the issues in ed and technology. My name is Bernard Avle, and I have a very interesting panel to answer the question: is AI replacing the minds of our students as our young people increasingly use it as a tool for learning? I have a very exciting panel. We'll tell you who they are as soon as we come back. Stay with us. So is AI replacing our children's minds or enhancing their ability to think better? This is Edtech Monday, brought to you by the Mastercard Foundation. It's a platform that brings together tech entrepreneurs, stakeholders, and policymakers in education and technology, and it's here on 97.3 CDFM and also on Channel 1 television. A very interesting panel. I have Richard Dodo, who's the founder of Meta School AI. Richard, welcome. Okay. We're also happy to have Kat Davidson, who's the co-founder, CEO and founder of EduSports. Welcome, Kat.
Thank you.
And we have Miracle Gavo. He's the founder and technical consultant for the Ghana Society for Education Technology. Miracle, welcome.
Thank you, Bernard.
Wonderful. So let's start with Richard. Tell us a bit more about who you are and what Meta School AI is.
Okay. So my name is Richard Dodo. I'm founder of Meta School AI, and what we do is we help students learn during the off-site season of the double tracks period. So when they are home, they do not have access to classroom lessons. They use our platform to bridge that gap. So the students can still take assignment from their teachers despite they are home. They have a set number of lessons for them to complete. So that's what we're actually doing. And we use AI in all that we do for inference, to enhance the learning end to end. Yeah. So
you
I'm
have
happy
a lot
to
of
be
questions
here.
to answer today.
A lot.
Kat, EduSports. This is sports, not sports. Tell me about yourself and EduSports.
Exactly. So EduSpots the name is drawn from the Ghanaian concept of a drinking spot. So the idea is the same spirit of bringing communities together, but not around drinking, this time around education. So for the last decade, I've been involved in basically working with incredible local change makers at the grassroots level who work as teams to set up education spaces called spots.
Wow.
And they're all connected online using digital tools, using WhatsApp, using an app. And through the spots, they run clubs for learners across STEM, early years literacy, digital skills, gender equity. And the key idea is that they create the changes that they want to see for their communities through education with a very strong digital skills focus.
I like this. When I tell my mom I'm going to a spot, it's not what she would think. Incredible. Miracle, so you're the founder and technical consultant at the GSET. What is that and what do you do there?
Okay, so GSET is a community of teachers who are enthusiastic about using technology to advance education. My work as a technical consultant is advising on the digital literacy and ICT integration across all the 712 senior high school and senior high technical schools in Ghana.
Wonderful. So let me stay with you. How are students actually using AI tools right now? And what has surprised you most about how they use AI? Miracle.
Right. Students' current use of AI is such that they are early adopters, but their usage reveals a critical gap in the digital guidance. I mean, they are using AI as a shortcut, not as a steady body. And that would also mean that the biggest surprise isn't that they use it, that's how they use it. There is a prevalent culture of copy and submit. Literally when students are using AI, rather than learn and apply from the use of the AI. And students see AI as an answer machine, not a thinking partner. So a lot of the time they are asking questions of it as if they're using Google search to find answers to questions or curiosities they want to answer for themselves. And this is because we have not yet taught them the ethics or the how of using these tools, which is my biggest surprise dealing with students across the secondary schools at the moment.
Richard, is that the same experience you have in the way students use AI? He says they do copy and submit instead of learn and apply.
Yeah, it's actually to some extent true. And if students are using AI solutions that way, you can't blame the students.
All right.
Let's say you've given a student, go and solve this problem, and the student picks the problem or the assignment and gives to the AI, and the AI solves it in 10 seconds. The problem is not with the students. The problem is with the assignments. We have to start looking at things from different angle. We teachers have to start asking questions. We have to stop asking questions like, what is matter? Let's start asking the students, how did you derive this answer?
Correct.
Because definitely, there's no way we are going to stop. We can stop students from using the AI solutions. We have to rather challenge their thinking with the assignments we give to them. So the assignments can be placed in a way that, despite this, encourage the students to use the AI, but when they come back, look at how did you actually derive the answer rather than the answer.
Kat, what about you? Because you work with grassroots students, and I'm assuming some of them may not even have access to basic tech. So just walk me through how the people you work with even conceive or apply AI in their schoolwork.
Yeah, so I think you hit exactly the point I was going to touch on, that actually in the communities we work in, which are across 11 regions of Ghana, but in the much more remote areas, you don't even in fact find the teachers being able to use AI, let alone the students always having access to digital tools. So I think as part of this discussion, there's a big question about equity and the gap that's sort of emerging between students who are maybe able to access the incredible programs you're accessing, and then students who are in classrooms where the teacher may not even themselves be able to download a file on a computer, let alone to get to the extent where they can prompt AI in a sophisticated way.
So here we are with three streams, right? Stream one, he's saying there are guys who use AI well, so they learn and apply. And then there are guys who have access to it, who is just like Google. And then there are people who have no access to AI at all. And they all people going to write the same exam. Yeah. All right. So let me come back to you, Miracle. How do you begin to think about students and AI and how they should apply it? Do you have any suggestions as to how students must be introduced to AI? Is there a perfect age, a perfect class? At what point should AI be introduced at all to a student?
You know, AI literally has always been part of our daily lives, because then it's hinged on algorithms to be able to predict and then provide responses. Now, with current government initiative on empowering our learners to acquire digital skills and then also responsible integration of ICT, that is forming the basis for introducing them to the ethical use and then how to use the AI to learn and apply this learning to advancing their personal interests, and then as well as meeting the developmental goals of society as well. Then for me, we need to move from the value of knowing the answers to asking the right questions. The premium move to uniquely human, competencies, like what makes us human and then what makes us a community. And for that would mean we stop things from like recall to like reasoning. So the way we engage with the AI tool and then how we apply that engagement to our daily lives.
So let me ask the same question to Richard. Is there the right age? Because look, there's even a debate around technology generally, right? And AI is more like at the top end, all right? So maybe let me make it even broader. Is there the right age to start introducing a student to digital tools in learning, number one? And then point two, at what point ideally would AI then be useful to enhance the learner's experience?
So when it comes to AI, what I'm saying right now is that at any given age of the student's growth cycle, you can introduce a level of AI, not as complex as what we use in higher learning, but even just as the student is just learning A, B, C, D, when the student mentions A and they don't pronounce it well, the AI can still challenge them. A. So until they get it right, so it depends on the level of AI we want to introduce. So at any given age, we can introduce an amount of AI, but of course we have to look at the ethics involved in introducing the AI to that student, maybe at a very toddler age.
Let's push this before I come to Kat. So you're saying you can introduce at any level, but there must be ethics. So for example, are you saying if it's supervised within a classroom setting, or if there's a parent involved, they could use it?
Yeah.
As against a student on their own with a computer chatting with some bot?
Exactly. So at maybe when the student is very young, in the classroom setting, we need someone to supervise the whole operation. Leaving the AI tool with the students, anything can happen. And that also goes beyond just about supervision, but how do we actually prompt the model such that it knows that this is our its guardrails, it cannot go beyond this. When the students ask any question beyond this point, just tell the students that let's stay within this topic. So the ethics goes beyond just about the teacher being there, but also the engineering and how the AI is actually being prompted and knowing that this is the limit on which it can go.
Kat, from what I'm hearing, we are talking ethics and we're talking about supervision, right? It puts a lot of responsibility on teachers and parents. So let's start with teachers. What type of help do teachers need to even begin to qualify to use AI and other technologies to even help students?
I should say, by the way, I've been a teacher, a classroom teacher for 11 years, so
Correct.
I very much come from a teacher mindset. And I think with technology as a whole, there's been a huge shift in society. I remember in coronavirus when suddenly everything shifted online, and now there's such a significant shift with AI as well. And I think actually talking to some teachers in Ghana last night, to keep this in the Ghanaian context, I think a lot of them really need a support network around managing some of these digital tools. And I think that's where EduSpots is really interested in, how building community around teachers so that they have peers in peer-to-peer learning groups where those questions where they might be quite shy or even embarrassed to sometimes ask that seem simple, have someone who can give that answer to them so that they can support their learners in the way that they want to.
So would you agree that teachers will be central in any conversation about EdTech generally and AI in particular?
Definitely. I think well, if we're talking about formal education, I think teachers know best the reality that exists within the classroom. They're the ones who are also the, I guess, ethical guide for the students more widely. So as you talk about ethics, teachers are ultimately probably the closest role model. A lot of students spend sometimes more time with the teacher than they do their parents.
Yeah.
But I also really believe in parents also being pulled into this discussion, as there's amazing things that AI has the potential to do in the home environment. That if parents had that access some simple AI tools, it could really improve learning outcomes and opportunities.
This is to all of you. What I find though is that in the regular classroom of the school my kids go to, I'm not sure they use AI that frequently because we see the course outline. They do have an ICT program, they have access to computers, but a lot of the teaching is manual. But what I find is that when the kids come home, and this is particularly for those who are in higher primary or secondary, they tend to want to use AI to solve the problems. All right. So I don't know whether that's even proper, because so in classroom they will teach them to write on the board or whatever, but when they get home and they're doing the assignment, then they want to use AI. Is that a problem? Am I? Should I be worried? This is to all of you. Should I be concerned about this?
I think this is a normal, natural habit. You go to the classroom, you learn the concept, but when you come home, sometimes you want to look for a shortcut to how to solve the problem. And one way I think that we can do to guide our children is, one, what we spoke about earlier, the sort of assignments we give to the students. It shouldn't just be the generic active recall assignment, because these are things AI can answer so easily. We have to challenge, or we have to change the way we actually ask the questions. Instead of judging, instead of asking for questions that will just, okay, yeah, this is a fact, what is this? We should just look for questions that will actually judge, or we will grade the student based on their judgment of the answer. So scenarios that I've seen is that certain institutions, they'll give you the question and they'll give you the answer, because they know that definitely you are going to use the AI to solve it. Then you're going to challenge you, the students, explain to us
How you got this answer?
how they,
Or how
like,
this answer
because
was
I've already
derived.
given to you the answer. So explain to me how this answer was derived.
So that changes the way you relate to the technology. Instead of looking for a destination as an answer, it's more like you are inquiring about the process.
Beautiful.
So that's a different. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, definitely. I think the whole shift in education needs to be more towards critical thinking and enabling students to, when they go home, be set more independent projects that enable them to use, perhaps, if they have access to digital tools, AI, to research things more from their own creativity and exploration, rather than education being about finding a way to a particular answer. Because you've got to be honest, AI has the answer, and we need to adapt to that.
Miracle, should I be worried that even though in the classroom the teaching is generally manual face-to-face, when it's homework time and I'm busy watching my football, my son wants the computer and he wants to use AI to solve the problem, should I be concerned about that? If this becomes a trend in my home, should I be concerned?
I wouldn't say should. The tool is not the problem, is the misuse of it, right? It's cheating if it undermines the learning objective. So if you're using AI that undermines the reason for the learning, then you call it cheating. So let me give an analogy. If you ask me the question, if using a calculator is cheating, my obvious answer, it will be no. If you are learning calculus, so if you're learning calculus and then you use a calculator, that is perfectly okay. Now, but if it's cheating, if you use it to pass a basic arithmetic, so I come to Bernard, what is 4 plus 2? Then you intend to use a calculator, then it defeats the purpose of using a calculator to answer such a basic arithmetic test without understanding the process of doing addition. Now, the intent is what matters in all of this, okay? So we've been working with the secondary schools largely recently. The question we need to be asking them is, did you use AI? No, that shouldn't be the kind of question you should be asking, but rather, did you learn the concept? So whether you use AI or not, the intent of whether you are learning should, or whether you've learned a concept should be the argument that we should be having or the discussion we should be having. We need an AI transparent, as assignments must be documented, and assignments must reflect how the AI output help them think. Okay, then this turns the art of using AI into a part of the learning process in itself. If we take like the example given by Richard, that if you were to give the question and then provided an answer for them, and you ask them to evaluate that answer, then you realize that the AI at the time is not being used to advance the learning, and it's being used to advance the process of acquiring new knowledge and skills by having the AI aid what you are doing. So it's the intent and then the use of it that will determine whether the person is cheating or is not cheating. So if, like the instance I gave, if we were to use a calculator to do 4 plus 2, that would be cheating because you understand the process. But if you're using it to do engineering math or you're using the calculator to do calculus, firstly, it's aiding you in the process of solving calculus problems. So that wouldn't be considered cheating. So yeah, at home, should it be concerned? I would say
education seems to be very examination focused. So if people are preparing for exam, is that not where the problem is? And also, there are things AI can do and there are things humans can do. How do we differentiate the two so we can have co-intelligence? These and more when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Edtech Monday coming to you on 97.3 CDFM and also on Channel 1 Television. Edtech Monday is a learning platform, brings together stakeholders in education, policymakers, entrepreneurs, students, teachers, and of course media to think and talk about the usage of education technologies. Today our focus is on AI. Is it enhancing our students? Is it replacing their thinking? Or are they collaborating? Nations want to get because the final exam is what most students are focused on, right? And it seems to me examination fixation limits the way teachers teach because they want the student to pass. They're not necessarily teaching for the student to understand. So, of course, understanding can help you pass, but it seems to me as though the skill you require to pass an exam in Ghana is not necessarily critical thinking. It may be memorization and stuff like this, right? So who wants to go first? Shouldn't the way exams are designed change if learning is to be more useful? Who's going to go first? Miracle, they say you are the oldest, so go first.
Thank you. I think so for me, that brings me to the issue of what we need to put a question mark on. The warning signs regarding that is obviously those that brings about the decline in foundational skills and intellectual resilience. Okay, for me, the starting point would be what we call the blank page syndrome, which is when the students cannot start a task without AI. In that regard, meaning when our students cannot on their own think intuitively and then creatively to begin to answer exams. The way we set our exam, there are two schools of thought. Some people are looking at processes that focus on skills development. Others are also looking at cognitive development. Now, the school system determines whether we are looking at cognitive performances, so we should measure cognitive performances. And then others also look like whether we are a skills-based economy, for which reason we should be assessing skills that we need for development. So these are different arguments that are made by proponents of whether we should be assessing cognitive intelligence or we should be assessing skills. The exams body or the education system caters for both. Now, we need to measure how much knowledge that we have. And here knowledge could mean that things we know and can do, or things that is in our head as knowledge. So if you're looking to see how much of retention, how much do our people know that they can rely on to complete a task, then obviously you are looking at knowledge that exists in our head, and can we measure the remembrance length of how long can people retain knowledge and then use that knowledge productively. So obviously we will go with our grammar style education, which would require the cognitive assessment. Then if you're looking at education that will bring in skills to the industry, that will bring in skills to our development agenda, then we would have to look at the way we examine this. And our school system caters for both. Either you go into TVET and then we assess skills for development, or you come into a grammar school where you are looking at people who would, for the most part, remember, recollect, and then apply knowledge they have about things they've gone through, experiences they've had. So these two, we could merge them. And if you look at those of us who do the technical, the science program, there's a practical component of the science program that we go through as part of the examination. Now, that will take you through the cognitive as well as the skills, a stretch that we are measuring both your cognitive, how much have you retained from the learning, and then how much you can do with the knowledge you've acquired through the process. So we can argue for both, but at the end of the day, it is underlining the points where we are saying what sort of education do we need to develop as a country.
Anyway, any thoughts on that question?
So I think it's really interesting how AI, I think it's not going to remove the need for us to have knowledge of different forms, because we need to be able to check the AI due to some of the mistakes that come up, and also have the critical thinking skills crucially to be able to analyze the AI and make it adaptable to a specific context. So I think there's going to need a certain level of knowledge acquisition that we have to be able to do the critical analysis alongside the critical thinking skills. And I think rather than just commenting on Ghana's assessment system, just taking it more globally, I also think considering the huge shifts that AI is going to cause, I think there should be more assessment that's around teamwork and group work. Because what AI does that's quite interesting is actually enable people to use skills from that are created by different people, different organizations in different ways to apply it to a project. So I would personally love to see much more project-based learning, much more teamwork that also has the level of empathy that's built, in that process that you have when you're working with a team. But I'm not sure that that's particularly easy to assess, or if we'd want to come up with very restricted assessment metrics for that, as that may come to the same kind of hoop jumping things where students act in a certain empathetic way to get the exam scores. So it's not an easy question to solve, but certainly I think there needs to be a huge sort of global shift in how assessment is conducted.
I was at a speech of a school, and I saw that kids as young as 7, 8 years were all being ranked on the basis of academic excellence. I didn't see enough awards around teamwork, empathy, helping, and the things you're talking about are the skills we need for the future. But I think the schools are so fixated with he was first, he was second, he was third. Why was he first? Because he got 100%. But maybe he sits alone, doesn't talk to anybody, he's very intelligent, or his cognitive skills are great. Socially, he's probably very poor, He can't work with anybody, and yet we feel like these are the people we want for our future. So it's even the learning institution needs to change the way it rewards, right?
Yeah,
the things you said to me, they seem to be very important skills, but I don't think schools reward this.
I guess there are some schools that reward kind of helpfulness and kindness and similar, but you're right, it's completely separated from the
They
assessment
just do
system
good behavior and good progress.
from the kind
Everything
of
else,
things.
you don't care.
Yeah.
First to 10, everybody and good behavior, good progress. And by the way, I was in this primary school in the 80s, and that was the same thing. First 10, good behavior, good progress. We still don't have best team player, empathy, leadership skills. All those things are nice, but they will not help you get your 7 A's. Therefore, nobody cares. I mean, I don't know what you think, Richard.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of the panelists. Very good points made. When it comes to examination, I have very different points. I see it from a very different angle. Right now, with the advent of AI, students in primary school, let's say senior high school, can do a very good work that you can compare to a doctorate degree work in terms of a project, if they know how to use an AI tool very well.
All right.
When it comes to the defense of that work, that becomes a problem.
Of course.
Because, okay, you've generated the work, but you can't actually defend the work. The way I'm seeing the examination going forward is that we should leave the students, if the students is in classes and they believe that they can sit for the WASI examination, the students should be able to do it. And there's no need for them to wait for a whole year. So when WASI is ready before they go and sit for the exam, they should be able to walk into a prometric center and judge. Take that examination. That's how I'm seeing, because right now with AI, we no longer have to ask, what is this? We are there to test your ability to think. AI is challenging students to think.
Is education only about being able to answer those questions, or having the soft skills, the empathy, the leadership? Because the danger with your suggestion is you can have very bright people with very bright intellect, socially useless. You know, like Sheldon Cooper. If you watch the I forget the name of the sitcom. He's exceptionally intelligent, but he has the emotional intelligence of an ant, like essentially none, zero, right? I feel like that's the kind of challenge your proposal will create. I don't know if you agree.
I think to some extent, if you look at it just from the examination point, as examination are being conducted right now.
Yes, it's called the Big Bang Theory, forgive me. The Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
It's a sitcom.
All right, sure. So that problem will still exist. If we want to resolve that problem, then that means we have to now involve more teachers in the loop. So your final examination, before you sit for the final exam, you know that you would have taken this score from your instructor, because this can only be examined by your instructor. So we can still take those scores. Yeah.
Let's go forward. What human skills would become more important in an AI era? Or flipping the question, what skills do we no longer need because AI is here? Miracle, let me start with you. What skills would be more useful now that AI is around, and what skills would be less useful? So we just let machines do those.
Yes. There are, of course, skills that the AI tool can contribute to, and then there are those. I mean, you've already in your contribution mentioned things around empathy, things about teamwork and stuff like that. I mean, AI is not going to give you empathy. It's not going to give you, collaborative skills. So those things will still. If you look at AI, what it can contribute is generation of ideas that it can do, and then help refine ideas. But the things it cannot do is about how I relate to you as a person, and then how you and I come together to get a job done. Those are things that will have to come from human ingenuity, about empathy, about tolerance, about collaborating, about communication. These are things that as humans we would need to stay with us, like in every stage of our life. And is there more reason why, if you look at the idea for why we are looking at foundational learning, which is numeracy, literacy, and then social emotional skills. Those are the things that, if you look at critically, are not going to be replaced by AI. these are things children, learners, adults would need to come up with, be the ones that leading the charge on those things. Now, if we look at AI as an enabler, then obviously you are looking at where can it contribute to advance the human spirit or the human knowledge, and for that matter, also closing the gap between the have and the have not. I'm pretty sure it can do very well. But the human, like empathy, kindness, are things that we would have to retain, and those cannot be replaced by AI.
I see. Anything to add, Richard? What skills do you think will be more useful going forward now that we are in an AI era?
Yeah, so I really agree with what empathy Miracle said and what Kathy said earlier on. We need empathy. We need our ability to create new content. So new content is, AI can only generate content it's seen. It cannot generate content outside of what it's been trained on. And that's what keeps us human. So we still need to keep that, and that's what we need to train our students on. So no longer chew and pour, because you know that the AI can do very well over there. It's about creating new things.
Do you think parents need to start learning how to use AI in the kind of education system we have?
Yeah, it's very important. It's very important as a parent to know at least some bits of AI. And if best you can do, take a class in AI just to understand. And when you see your child using AI, don't be worried about it. Let the students use the AI. However, the most important thing is review the prompt they used. Okay, ask the students or ask your child, why did you prompt this? What's made you? And in that instance, what you are doing, you are reverse engineering. You are making the students or your child to explain to you that, okay, this is the reason why I prompted it this way. Maybe they could have prompted it the first way, they didn't get the right answer. Why did you change the prompts to this way? Oh, it gave me this response. And what you realize is that from that interaction alone, you are reinforcing learning.
Interesting. Anything to add to this, Kat? Because I have a substantive question for you around how communities with limited resources can help parents to engender things like curiosity and creativity within their kids, even without access to high-level technology.
Yeah, I was going to just following up from what you're saying. It's so important that parents have that relationship with a child where they are asking those questions, being part of that process. But it's important, as I think everyone knows, that in some areas of Ghana, the parents may not be able to understand the AI, or they may not be able to read and write in English. And so I think a lot of it is around giving parents simple tools to be able to, have that sense of judgment of how much time they're spending on their phone, maybe noticing behavioral changes, maybe, as you said, having those conversations, even if you're just asking, well, what is it you're looking up, how are you doing it, what are you intending to do, what are the outcomes, being part of that process, even if they're not able to fully engage with AI. But there are so many, to your second question, there are so many ways is it without AI that the creativity and curiosity can build, that I think parents in Ghanaian communities already have so many locally rooted ways of promoting this. And I think perhaps just one thing we do in EduSpots is setting challenges, so project-based learning, that I remember myself as a young child, my amazing teacher, Mr. Snell, used to set me every weekend a project-based learning activity that was very open-ended and encouraged us to explore it through whatever mediums we wanted to do, whether it was community interviews or looking at local resources or looking at the local environment and then drawing it back in and sharing it with the class. So in EduSpots, we really strongly believe in creating those really open-ended opportunities. And we also have a kind of framework, I guess, coming back to the assessment to assess some of the skills that come through from that, looking at student leadership, curiosity, looking at things like inclusion, those kind of softer skills, teamwork that we were talking about before.
Let's talk about red flags and when parents should be worried, because don't forget, this program, the concept is for shared learning, teachers, students, parents. Miracle, at what point should a parent get concerned, or is there a red line that kids should not cross in observing their behavior and AI in particular? What's your advice to parents on what they should look out for and when they should start getting concerned if they see what?
The kind of red flags that exist with the use of AI is the irresponsible use of AI, where it erodes the thinking capability of the children. if you look at things around writing, it's you pouring your thoughts on paper. If the students begin to rely excessively on the use of AI, what it means is that they've offloaded their brain to the AI, and where they themselves stop thinking. And once everything that's by the child is to use AI to generate responses or create solutions, then you should be worried as a parent, and you should avoid the over reliance on using AI for everything before they begin to use the AI to provide responses or to create solutions. You want them to go through the process of thinking. What are their thought processes that they've taken before engaging the AI to supplement their thought processes to come up with solutions. Your children should not be overly reliant on the use of AI for every question you ask them, for everything that they need to respond to, or every task or solution that they need to work on.
But the problem is that we all don't know how it will affect their behavior because it's a new thing. I don't think there's enough. As we speak, there's a case involving a social media company where a 20-year-old is suing because she believes that her behavior, she's become addicted to social media, right? Now, and AI is even at the top end of, so I'm not even sure if we know, which is why I go back to the question of what's the best age to even start this? Because you have a 14-year-old or 12-year-old guy who knows that he can decide not to study and he would have a way of answering his questions. Shouldn't we have more stricter rules around even the age of usage, right? Because by the time you see the red flag, it may be too late. Because the thing is, there's digital media, social media, and AI is all with the same tools. All right. So I need a bit more comfort around whether we are all saying students can use AI so long as the parent is watching, or whether we should say, look, until you are 16, you're not even going close to AI. Should we be that radical?
No, I don't think we should be that. How I see it is that our teachers need to be retrained, because at the end of the day, it falls back to them. The sort of questions they ask can determine whether the students can actually use an AI solution to answer the question or not. I can be very practical, make an experiment in the class, and my assignment is based on the experiments I did in the class. Based on the experiments in the class today, how did you understand it?
All right.
It's such an open-ended question. The AI does not know the experiment that happened in the class, so the students have to now go there and describe the experiments to the AI. By the time you're done, you've finished learning. So we need to do this retraining. Once that's the backbone of everything. Once we're able to resolve that, we will solve the problem.
I'm going to throw you guys a curveball. So yesterday, somebody sent me a link to a story in the New York Post. It says Gen Z, the first generation officially dubbed dumber than the last. And I'm just going to read, and this story is dated February 7, so it's like some time back. Gen Z, the generation born between 97 and 2010 is the very first generation who did worse in school than the generation before them, who will be my generation, millennials. According to a top neuroscientist, and shockingly they are proud of it, they are the very first generation in modern history to score lower on the standardized academic test than the one before. Dr. Jared Cooney, 43, told the Post. And to make matters worse, most of these young people are overconfident about how smart they are. The smarter people think they are, the dumber they actually are. They underperformed on basically every cognitive measure, from basic attention, memory, literacy, numeracy, executive function, and general IQ. And if you go into the story, that's the generation that was trained by this. You know what I'm saying?
I get you.
So I'm asking myself, are we sure we are on the right path with this? Because there's a way in which it can affect human intelligence. You know, Kat, you need to help me here. I'm worried.
Yes, I am also worried at times. I think the behavioral changes that are coming as a result of AI and wider social media. I'm sure there are already studies being done, but I don't think we know yet the scale of the behavioral change this could cause. And I remember myself, I used to have on my WhatsApp AI integrated ChatGPT on my WhatsApp. And I reflected that I was possibly, talking to WhatsApp for questions and answers that I'd had in the past that I would have gone to a friend. And I think coming to your point of kind of I think you've touched on the sort of arrogance or the lack of awareness and these kind of things. I guess that's the difference when you interact with an AI as compared to a human, is that the human will give you all this kind of, I guess, more developed emotional cues of different kind, which the AI isn't able to do because I guess it's constricted to words. So I think there's probably an awful lot of studies that are ongoing. There are probably many already created on the impact of AI also on brain development with, I guess, where people are more used to getting immediate answers, the click culture. I noticed myself getting impatient. And when I was younger, when I was preparing to study philosophy, I had to walk all the way to a faraway library. I was very lucky to have a library I know and trawl through to find the related things. And now everything is at a click. And I wonder what that does to sort of wider resilience. And I think as we continue to use AI tools is how can we ensure that there's enough challenge that students do develop all these different areas which may contribute to some of the things you've mentioned being highlighted.
So my takeaway is be conscious of the benefit, but beware of the risk. That's the takeaway I get from all three of you. Unfortunately, we have to end now, but it's been really enlightening talking to you. I've been speaking to Miracle Gavo, founder and technical consultant for the Ghana Society for Education Technology, GSET, on screen with us. Miracle, thank you. Kat Davison is the founder and CEO of EduSports. Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.
And Richard Dodo is the founder of Meta School AI. It's on his t-shirt, Innovation in Learning. This program has been brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation in partnership with the Meltwater Education Now Institution for Technology, or Entrepreneurial Institution for Technology, MEST. My name is Bernard Avile. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next month with another exciting edition of Edtech Monday.